All right, welcome back to another episode of the Department Podcast with Justin Valentovic, Stephen Clark, and Stephen Bologna, and we are here to break down the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We are moving on to the championship round, basically NFL's version of the Final Four with the Packers, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bucks. But before we get into that and preview that slate of games for next weekend, let's talk about this week. But first, guys, what's going on?
Hey, man, not much. A nice weekend of football. Pretty decent games all around. I was looking back at the last podcast we did, the predictions, and I was thinking to myself while watching it back over on YouTube at the sports department and on our social medias at Sports Depth Pod. I should open up like some stock in Wendy's or something like that, because I went 4 for 4 in our predictions. So
You've been sitting on that since last night, probably, to use that line.
Earlier this morning, it came to my mind. Yeah. So, but great games. Can't complain. I'm doing well as well.
Yeah, I'm good. Can't complain. Work Sunday. I've actually had to work the past 10 Sundays, and I have to work next Sunday and the Sunday after that. So I don't really get to watch these games, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. I keep up with it.
Yeah, you catch enough just to be able to talk about it. So let's just dive into those games. Last week we started from the first game and worked our way to the end, but let's go reverse chronological order, just because the storylines for this game is kind of the big talking point, and that's Tom Brady and the Bucks. Tom's taken the old Buckaroos to the conference championship for the first time since their Super Bowl season way back in 2002, so 19 years. Tom Brady, 14th conference title game, first one in the NFC, obviously, but another story coming out of the other sideline is Drew Brees potentially retiring and hanging up the cleats and going off into the sunset in a loss. But the Bucks are moving on, though.
Yeah, what a sad way to go out, honestly. I don't like Drew Brees. That's been said many times on this podcast. I'm not a fan of the guy because he did beat Justin and I's Colts in the Super Bowl back in 2010. So
nothing like holding a 11-year grudge, which
you'll
take until he's in the Hall of Fame, basically, and even then, well into past that, and
then I'll crap on him when he's a commentator on CBS or something too.
NBC.
But anyways, it's just, I feel like a very sad way for him to go out. I wasn't expecting much, at least from this game, out of him. I said he was washed on the last podcast, and it proved it right there with 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. Granted, one of them was tipped and wasn't his fault, but other ones during the game just didn't look good. He can't throw the ball past 20 yards down the field, and the commentators even said it on Sunday Night Football and all that. But man, it's just a sad way to go out. Great career, one of the best to ever do it. I think he'd get more recognition if he wasn't in the same era as Rodgers, Brees, all these other guys. Like if he was like a couple of years prior, or even like came into the league like in 2010 or something like that, he'd get a lot more praise. But hell of a career, great human being, great family man, and I wish him the best in his future.
Well, you said it. The glaring issue was his arm, and it stuck out where he can't push the ball downfield. And when they needed him basically to just sling it downfield, that's when it just became ducks and were picked off. And really the best throw was by Jameis Winston on that gadget play, if we're being honest. So, they have a big question mark, which, we'll talk about later on in the NFL offseason. But just looking at Tom Brady compared to Drew Brees, it's night and day with the ability to throw the ball downfield with just the power and the accuracy. Like Brady was overshooting his receivers downfield, which I'd rather an overthrow than an underthrow at that point, because then no one's getting it other than a potential interception. But Brees, he's done. I think he really is, just talent-wise and arm-wise. It showed a lot in this game.
Listen, gotta take the caps off for Drew. Caps off to a great career. Really what I think might go into this was, well, first off, I'll say this. We're talking about a guy that was cut by the Chargers for his career being over from a shoulder injury. And here he is going down as arguably the greatest quarterback to ever grace the gridiron, as Justin would say. But I think as time goes on, his kids are getting older. He's going to want to spend more time with them. Really, the past 4 years, they've been honestly really high Super Bowl favorites, and they just haven't been able to get the job done. I think with the Saints going into the offseason, nearly $100 million in the negative for the cap, I think it's time for Drew to move on, the Saints to cut ties with him. And again, fantastic career. You remember the early 2010s. I mean, Drew Brees was throwing the ball 60, 65 times a game. it was insane. And maybe that might have something to do with why his arm is kind of dead now, because of all the times he would throw 40, 50 plus times every single game in his prime. But even though he didn't play that great necessarily this year, look at their record still, and look at their record the past 5 years. It's just been incredible. And it's sad to see Drew go out this way. But on the Buccaneers side, I mean, like you said, Justin, Tom Brady, you look at every other quarterback over 37, and he just, it's not even close. I mean, this guy looks like he could play another 5 more years. And going into the season, everyone said Belichick was the reason Brady was good. And here's Brady going to the NFC Championship game with a really high chance of going back to the Super Bowl. There's a well-coached Buccaneers team. Offense is incredible, and they're going to have a really tough matchup this week, but a great matchup.
And they won this game in a very Patriots way, which was not taking that many shots downfield, controlling the clock, controlling the ground game. Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, they did their job, what everyone expected them to do, which was just run the ball and get the first downs. We saw a few times where, Arians and Brady tried to air it out on like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and it fell incomplete and they had a punt. And then really, I assume it's Brady saying, let's not do that anymore. And they just started running the ball. And that was literally how Tom Brady won games in New England for literally 2 decades. And now he's doing it in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it was nice to see Leonard Fournette have like a really good performance, because he kind of got lost in the shuffle in Jacksonville after his rookie year. He had a really good rookie year. He had a couple good years there, and then he kind of fell off the face of the earth. It was nice to see him back, and a healthy Ronald Jones proves what they can do with this offense. And Tom Brady wasn't even giving the balls to his stars much during the game. Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans caught a touchdown, but his stars didn't do much. It was the guys who just were open at the time, and Brady found them. He found Scotty Miller. I never heard of Tyler Johnson before, but he made that amazing catch that almost like sealed the game for them at that point. But man, they got the job done, and that's all that matters.
And it's the Bucs defense too.
Well, that's the thing. Let's talk about Devin White. He was literally everywhere and playing like the first round talent everyone expected him to be. He was running down receivers, covering the middle perfectly. He had 2 big turnovers that basically led the way for the Bucs. And if we're being honest, when it was 2020 and the Saints couldn't really get any offense going, it's like, okay, the Bucs have this game, because it's Tom Brady at this point.
And I mean, you talk about a guy that's the highest paid receiver in the game. Stephen Clark knows a lot about him. Michael Thomas, big goose egg on the board. Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting locking him down. And they were talking all the shit they wanted to after the game because they locked him up respectively. So, if you pay a guy that much, you can't have no catches.
Did you see? Yeah. Yeah,
call him slant boy, and that's true. That's all he does is run slants. And like I saw the tweet on Twitter. I love the ones that are like this. Like Michael Thomas woke up feeling dangerous today. 0 targets, 0 catches, 0 receptions, 0 everything. I love it. I hate Michael Thomas just because I drafted him in my first pick too. He is very, very overrated. And I have a good feeling he will not be with the Saints next year.
Yeah, Saints are in cap hell. They have to make some serious cuts because even with Brees coming off the books, they're still like $60 million over next year's cap. So that could be a complete disaster. And this team, you hit on a little bit before, Steve. Like, this is one of the most dominant regular season teams for about 4 or 5 years at this point. But they built this team for Brees too little, too late. Is kind of the story of it.
With that being said, how dominant they were. Yes, there were a bunch of like flukes. I wouldn't want to say flukes, actually. Bunch of things that happened, like the Minneapolis Miracle. You have the defensive pass interference. You have they lost in overtime to the Vikings last year. It was a flip of a coin if they would have won that game or not. This year was finally a year where there was like not an excuse against them. No excuses, no nothing. The Buccaneers were the better team on this Sunday, not during the season. They shut them out during the season. Granted, they did. But this was the first year in about 4 or 5 years with the Saints in the playoffs where they can't blame anybody else but themselves.
And just the kind of lasting photo is Tom Brady trying to high-five the refs as Drew Brees is just walking off the field is kind of the big takeaway from this game. And I saw the perfect thing on Twitter earlier this morning where it was basically they were saying that game with Brees and Brady is basically like how Shawn Michaels retired Ric Flair at that point, just 2 old guys putting one down and the other one riding off into the sunset. But
was that when Michaels was like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry to do
and
this.
Then kicked him in the face.
And probably exactly just like that, Tom Brady will be gone in 2 years anyways, being retired by another old dude. by
Yep.
the name of Aaron Rodgers, probably. So
Maybe.
And with that, let's move on to the AFC game from Sunday, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Cleveland Browns. And the big storyline from this game is the Browns, they almost had it. They could almost taste the AFC Championship game, but Chad Henne coming out of the bullpen with plenty of heroics as Patrick Mahomes got his head taken off, and boy, was that a concussion, because right off the hit, you could tell he was on another planet because he was not there. So who knows if he'll clear protocol in time to play in the AFC Championship game, but we'll get there when we get there. But boy, oh boy, Andy Reid having some stones, calling a pass play on
Oh,
fourth and like 1, trying to get the first down. Tyreek Hill seals the deal. Chiefs are moving on. Browns heartbroken, but the Browns, it's moving in the right direction. Stefanski and Mayfield were the right choices, it seems like. Now, we say it all the time, like, oh, this team will be here next year, and maybe they're not, maybe they will be, but they definitely have something going in the right direction finally for Cleveland.
And let's set the scene here, Stephen Clark. 3rd and 14.
sir.
Chad Henne takes the snap and rolls left. A 14-yard scramble.
And then
And
trucking
I
his
thought-
head a little bit too.
Yeah, I thought they were going to give him the first, but clearly he was down. And I mean, you have a bruiser like a guy like Le'Veon Bell in the backfield, and you're going to do a rollout pass. Man, Andy Reid, he's got something down there, and
Big Red.
Big Red. And now
So
he's
we know it's Big and Red.
Okay.
Based on that play call.
But yeah, man.
Can't make that joke on radio.
But yeah, this
Sorry,
was
Carl.
this was just a really good game. Got to give props to Cleveland. They almost if that touchdown, if Higgins ever fumbled the ball at the goal line, it'd be a completely different game. Potential hit to the head there from Sorensen, white chocolate as they call him, I think.
Dirty Dan.
Yeah, that it was clearly hit to the head, but they didn't give him the call. But like you said, Justin, you have to give props to Cleveland here. Clearly, the train is on the right track. Finally, there's a team that's probably going to get Odell Beckham Jr. back next season. They said that they are sold finally on Baker being their franchise QB. They're not going to rush him to an extension, I don't believe, from a report I saw. But yeah, they took a gamble with Stefanski in the offseason.
And it works.
It works.
Baker executes what he's asked to do, which is manage a game and make the throws and make the plays with his legs when he has to. And people argue if he was worth the number 1 pick or not. If it's working for your team and you are winning with that player, then they are worth that pick regardless of where they were. And that's simply the story with Baker Mayfield. Should he have gone number 1 overall? Probably not. Did he? Yes. And now is he living up to it in Cleveland's sense of winning games where they want to go? Yeah. So it was worth the pick.
Yeah. Steve touched on it, I think, slightly, but Rashard Higgins, that play was kind of like the point, like the changing point of the game, turning point.
Whether
let me say this right now, idiot move by Higgins to dive into the end zone when there is no need to dive. You could have just went down, you could have ran out of bounds. It wasn't a 4th and goal, a 4th down situation or anything where you need to get the ball in the end zone at that point in time. Like, there have plenty of plays after which they could have just pounded the ball in with 2 of the best running backs in the league that you have in that team, or a mobile quarterback in Baker Mayfield who can just run it or pass it in. Idiot play, if you ask me.
And, looking at the hit, some people say it was dirty. Some people say it was not. Looking at it in slow motion, it was helmet to helmet. So by definition, it should have been a penalty, whether, he was trying to take him and hit him in the head or not. But can we talk about with the ball rolling out the back of the end zone being a touchback the other way for the defense? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, for something that's like unintentional, it's dumb. The ball, if you want to penalize the team for trying to roll it into the end zone is basically what I guess they're trying to do and have someone jump on it. Just move the ball back to the 20 where the offense keeps possession at that point. Because the fact that it's a touchback and goes the other way is just absurd to me. Because that was a changing point for this game.
It was.
Absolutely.
It was.
Yeah. Because, you look at regular, if you're running down the sideline, not at the end zone, and you fumble the ball out of bounds, it's
whoever last touched it. Yeah. At full possession.
And then when it gets to the end zone, all of a sudden, nope, you got to give it back to the other team now. It is a game-changing kind of call. It's the rule, so you got to follow it. So hopefully the NFL maybe monitors that and talks.
And it's something that happens so rarely, but when it does, it's like that's dumb. Like every time it comes up, it's always stupid. But let's just talk about the major thing. Browns were only significantly in this game because Patrick Mahomes was taken out. First, he was banged up on a run. Looked like he had some turf toe. Then he was able to go in, but obviously hobbling. So him being able to escape the pocket, was hampered a little bit. Then I don't even know how long after. he obviously takes a hit, gets concussed, and he goes out. And that's why the Browns were in this game.
Yeah, this is very different from the Baltimore-Buffalo game, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, where I feel like Buffalo had that game on lock no matter which quarterback was in for the moment, whoever got hurt in that situation. Patrick Mahomes is the centerpiece of that Chiefs offense. Granted, they have the best tight end in the league and Travis Kelce, great receivers, great old offensive line. Le'Veon Bell's fantastic, but he's the main piece of that offense. When you take him out of that offense, you saw what happened with that Chad Henne throw, one of the worst throws I've ever seen in the playoff game in my life into the end zone. And granted, Henne got the job done. He did put the team on his back when it had to be done, and he got him that first down. If Henne played all 4 quarters of that game, the Browns would have won. If Mahomes would have played all 4 quarters of that game, the Chiefs would have won.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this concussion protocol and how Mahomes is going to feel going forward. You assume that Mahomes is going to try everything he can to play the game on Sunday. I'm trying to see what time they actually have the 6:40 game.
The later game,
So
yeah.
that kind of
Buys
gives
him-
Mahomes maybe a whole like morning and afternoon to kind of get his mind right.
But also, I'm not saying like I know everything about concussions, never officially had one at least. But if he's tweeting and the big thing with concussions is you're supposed to be in like a dark room, not looking at bright lights, not looking at your phone. If that was him who was tweeting out like right after the game, like anything possible, and he's cracking some dad jokes on Twitter. If that's him, then maybe it's not as bad as people think. But it could have been someone else doing it for him, his agent or whoever. But
his brother's a TikTok star. He probably has all the.
I guess he can go play for the
Jackson,
Steelers then. So, well, they're a little bit.
The Chiefs might have just said, "Listen, you're banged up. You're kind of out of it. We believe we can still win this game, so let's just keep you out, not hurt you anymore." It could be a very mild concussion. You might not even have a concussion at all.
It could be a little. No. Yeah, that's the thing. You don't really know until a day or two after. He's probably just resting away from everybody at this point. But Chad Henne earned a lifetime contract in Kansas City probably after that, considering him
playing
playing
like a big money contract.
Just a lifetime contract in Kansas City as a backup.
Yeah, or like Romo said, probably has to never buy a beer ever again
in Kansas City too. Yeah, he's taken care of. But him playing in week 17 might have helped a little bit, get him ready, considering I don't even remember the last time we saw Chad Henne on a football field.
Probably throwing a pick to the Colts or something.
Yeah. But Browns heartbreaking loss, what could have been almost the AFC Championship game, but I think they'll be there again.
The Browns, final statement, Browns are not the Browns, man.
No.
They didn't get clapped.
Not anymore.
All the Steelers receivers are wrong about that game.
Can't wait till Claypool bitches about this game.
They piss me off so much.
They're the most unlikable team right now.
Yeah.
Because so are losers.
Literally.
Exactly.
And we didn't talk about it last time, but then they're like, because they won disrespectfully. That's why we're salty. It's like, what'd they do? They kicked your ass.
Yes, I know. They danced to Juju's song and all that.
They came in and kicked your ass on your home field. That's what happened.
Yeah. The Steelers. But
they're childish. They're childish.
Yeah, they
That's
are.
all it is.
Yeah, they're. Oh God. Let's
the
move
Browns, bright future. Bright future. Very happy for them.
Never thought we'd see that at all. But let's go all the way up north to Nope. The night game was.
I thought you were going to say like Florida. I'm like, wait.
Tampa Bay.
The night. Yeah. That's some TV news directions. You're going up to Florida. So let's move to the night game was the Rams. Nope. Ravens, Bills.
Bills. Up north. You're right.
Yeah, there we go. That's where I was going, sort of, kind of, not really. But another game where another quarterback gets the head taken off. Lamar Jackson was taken out due to concussion protocol after throwing a bad interception. And boy, a lot of things just went wrong for the Ravens. Justin Tucker missed 2 consecutive kicks. So his agent definitely not happy. Losing some money on that on a future deal. But the Bills, they're going back to the AFC Championship game. Every folding table possible in Buffalo is going to be destroyed. Loved seeing the edits of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen as Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley getting the tables. But the Bills are the Bills. No one circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills, but they're moving on. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, a great quarterback receiver combination. The Bills, they're a really good team. It's as simple as that.
Best fan base of football. I mean, I believe so. You see that they donated $260,000 to Lamar's charity.
Great guys, great people.
They are. But to the game, I'm going to
game.
say, this is a Ravens team that we know that they're a good team. Kind of struggled and hit a skid mark halfway through the year, but now another year, another loss, and Lamar kind of went back down to earth this year. Still a good season. But this is a team I think that's going to shed some dead weight here. I think Mark Ingram's out. I think Calais Campbell's going to be on his way out. They could really use another receiver. The backup actually didn't look bad. Tyler Huntley.
Never
Not
heard
bad.
of him.
He almost connected with Hollywood Brown on what would have been a touchdown.
And they would have had
But for
like 4 minutes to come back and try to win it. But
Yeah,
That would have been one more touchdown than Lamar had during the game.
the issue, what I've noticed with Baltimore, the whole storyline with Lamar, coming into the NFL was, can he throw? How well is his arm? All that crap. Last year he proved he can throw the ball. It seems like this year they took the ball just too much out of his hand to when he has to throw. Maybe he's not warmed up. He's not in a rhythm. And that's where he looks more and more sporadic and inaccurate. Because last year they were throwing it, 30 to 35 times a game. Now they're throwing it, 15 to 25 times a game and running it way too much, I think, if I'm being honest.
It's too predictable now. It used to be like in his MVP season, it was, what's he got to do? It was almost like the Titans in a way. Like you play for the run, but then if it's a play action or something, he can scramble and run out of the pocket and just toss a dime somewhere. Like it's always a run now, either a QB draw or a triple option or read option. It's just readable at this point. Lamar said it earlier in the season, the other teams know what I'm running. The other teams know the plays.
And that was when they were still throwing a little bit. And then they went to this, and it's even more predictable.
Yeah. They're Lamar. You make the joke he's a running back, but he really that's what he's better at.
That's what they're using him as now. But at the point, teams are containing him at least to some point.
Yeah, I agree. And on the Bills front, this is a really well coached team. Offense coordinator Brian Dable, I believe Schefter reported today that he will be back in Buffalo next year after not landing the Chargers gig.
Yeah.
So
all the coaching roles kind of just dried up pretty quick for him. But we'll get into that when we get in there. But that's a good sign, though, honestly, for Buffalo. Keep your coordinators together. You've seen what he's been able to do, what Josh Allen's been able to do in Dable's system. He turned into a legitimate quarterback, and you can see the numbers. He's physically and statistically getting better as a quarterback each year.
Yeah.
And this was a tough game to have a good game into with the crazy wins that they had up in Buffalo. And Josh Allen still did what he did best. He threw the ball. He didn't run as much. He didn't run at all, really. But he threw the ball what he had to do. And Stephon Diggs, like we talk about every single week on this podcast, is phenomenal. This duo is the best duo in football at this time right now.
It's honestly like the best wide receiver quarterback combination we've seen since, AB and Ben were together. At their height of it for those 2-3 years.
Success-wise, yes. Because this is their first season together, and look what they're already doing. They're going to the AFC
instantaneously. And, maybe they take that pick and use Justin Jefferson, intertwinable. But Stephon Diggs has just brought a veteran leadership. He's been in championship games before. It's what the Bills needed, and it's working great for him.
Yeah. Great trade by Bean.
I'd like for them to get a running back for Josh Allen, but, the defense also for the Bills, they're a younger defense. Remember when the Bills used to have really good defense, no offense. Now they're a smaller defense, but they're a fast and they love to cover, as many DBs as possible with their defense. And we saw that with a 101-yard pick six of Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Tyron Johnson, that insane. Look, I think it tied the longest pick six in playoff history.
It did, yeah.
And I saw this on
right, maybe?
The what?
I feel like Ed Reed has had like end zone to end zone pick sixes, so maybe him. I don't know.
Playoff history. Yeah. But I saw a thing on Twitter or Instagram or something of Tyron Johnson, the guy who had the interception. If you see his combine when he was doing the thing where he was running, catching the ball, and all that stuff, he got doinked in the head.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah, he's the one who got drilled.
No way.
And he's the one who had that game sealing, I would say, pick six.
Small world.
Yeah, story of this game was just everything that could go wrong for the Ravens went wrong for the Ravens, and that seems to be the story of Lamar's tenure in the playoffs. Quite frankly.
Yeah, Lamar got his one win. They stomped on the logo on the field. He ran into the locker room thinking he was the next best quarterback in the league, thinking he's all that. And the Bills proved right there he's not all that.
Dose of reality.
If the Bills can get a running back and a solid number two, they could be even better next year.
Yeah.
And if they somehow beat the Chiefs next week with, say, they have Mahomes, we might be seeing a swing of the pendulum here.
Buffalo might be on fire at that point if they make it to the Super Bowl.
Man.
Literally, we'll be smelling the flames all the way here.
Did you
in
see
Jersey,
Josh
bro.
Allen said if they win the Super Bowl, he'll go through like 2 flaming tables? I'm sure Bill's management was not happy about their quarterback potentially getting, 3rd-degree burns. But,
Man.
looking at the Bills and looking at like every single team, because you're looking at the game against Kansas City, every single team's kind of building towards Kansas City, and the league's kind of catching up to them a little bit to an extent.
And even like the last few weeks of the regular season, granted they didn't have to try as hard. They weren't like the same Kansas City team. They're falling off a little bit. They had a close game with Atlanta. I know the Chargers beat them, but the starters didn't really play. But they kind of were starting to fall off. And it's like any team can kind of beat them now. They're not this dominant like power team that we've been talking about since the beginning of the season. Like any given Sunday, any team could possibly beat this Chiefs team.
Yeah, but no one beat the Bills yet. They're moving on. Ravens, they're going home. They got some serious reevaluations to do at all levels of the team, offense, defense. Not kicker, but who knows? Maybe even head coaching.
Maybe.
But I don't know. Who knows? But let's move on to the last game of the divisional round. And it was the first one to kick things off, and that's Rams, Packers in Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers got the win. He's sending the Packers back to the NFC Championship game. First time they're hosting it under him, which is he's very happy to see. Looking at this game, Aaron Rodgers is just loving and thriving in Matt LaFleur's system. He's having fun. He's enjoying football. The Rams, they are what they are at this point with Jared Goff. He's going to be under a microscope next year just to see what they do with him. But the Packers, everyone keeps saying, what could they have done with, their first round pick this year? They took Jordan Love, Devontae Adams, though. He's picking up the slack where they don't have another offensive weapon as consistent as him because, Lazard's great, Valdez-Scantling's good, but they drop a lot of balls, which we saw also in this game. Didn't really matter because they still came away with the win. But Devontae Adams, he beat the matchup of Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, he did very well. Very, very well. I'm going back to your first point right there about their first round draft pick. Jordan Love? All right.
Yeah.
Drafting Jordan Love was the smartest thing the Packers did during the draft because it lit a fire underneath Aaron Rodgers to be like, hey, I'm not this old washed up dude. I can still go. I can go out there, take this team to the NFC Championship. I can win an MVP at how old I am right now and prove to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league with all these up and coming guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen on the rise. I can prove to be that guy. It lit a fire under him. And we're seeing it right now, how they're going to most likely carry this team to a Super Bowl. So that was one of the smartest things. Wasn't intentional probably, but Aaron Rodgers, man, he's different. He is different. He's on another level this season. And that's all I got to say about Aaron Rodgers.
Imagine if they took Justin Jefferson with their first round pick and not Jordan Love. I mean, this team would be at a whole different level. I mean, props to Rodgers for just throwing that pick back in their face. I love it. Props to Matt LaFleur for getting them to 2 straight NFC Championship games in his 2 years there. Devontae Adams got so much swagger with him. And this is a Rams team. Steve Wycheck reporting that apparently Jared Goff and Sean McVay have not been on the same page recently, and their relationship needs marriage counseling, as I quote.
And that doesn't sound good because looking at the Rams, McVay's the golden boy, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
They would rather, I think they're in a situation where they'd rather cut the quarterback than cut the coach. And usually it's the opposite, as we saw in Philly.
I could see a trade coming pretty soon. Jared Goff for someone's first round pick. That's pretty high up there.
He'll be in
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm okay with that. I'll take him.
Until he's 3 weeks in, has 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I'm done with this guy. Get him off my team.
I'm done. Give me back Rivers. Their receiving core in and I almost called him an Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay is basically the same.
I mean, if they win a Super Bowl with him, they might rename the town Aaron Rodgers for him.
Honestly, but their running game too is just kicked up all of a sudden too. Aaron Jones, we've known this for the last couple of weeks, has been really good. AJ Dillon, fantastic rookie. Jamal Williams is back being healthy too. They have 3 solid weapons. They have a 1-2-3 punch. Ooh, they're scary. They're just very, very scary.
And a really good secondary. Jair Alexander is out of his mind. Kenny Clark too, a really good nose tackle for them.
This is a really name. Kenny. or Clark?
Kenny Clark. Yeah.
Kenneth
Oh.
Clark.
I was going to say if it's his first name, it'd be
Yeah,
Clark.
Clark. Yeah.
But see, they could spell it then Clark as the first name without the E and then the last
Then
name
the
with the
last name.
E. So it's different. Yeah.
That's something I would do with my child.
I feel sorry for your firstborn son. You'll be
Anyways.
slightly inebriated and then it'll be Clark.
Name him Colt.
Colt Clark. Honestly, has a nice
Long
ring.
shot. Colt Cruz.
Oh,
It's a
God.
nice ring to it. Anyways, like you said, Steve, their defense is great too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they spent all the right money on the right free agents on their defense with, Preston and Zadarius Smith. But, secondary, really good. And Aaron Rodgers is playing great football. And the Rams have to reevaluate a lot of things.
Yeah, Rams have a great
Bold
defense
prediction
though.
here.
Oh,
Bold prediction. I think the Rams will run it back with this defense one more time. And if they don't win the Super Bowl next year or go far, I think they're going to trade Aaron Donald.
I don't see Donald. I see Ramsey going. I think they keep
Ramsey. There's
there's
a lot that you can trade on that defense.
I think they would keep Donald at all costs. He's their Lawrence Taylor. You don't let him go.
generational talent.
You could get first round picks for Ramsey, for Leonard Floyd. Maybe Goff. You don't trade Aaron Donald. It would come back to haunt them.
I mean, they're not winning, and the value would be so high. I feel like it's an option. And it seems that Donald has become think they're frustrated that they can't win.
I really think they're just a quarterback away. Goff, he's our generation's Alex Smith. I think at this point, he'll win you games, but he's not going to go out and throw you back into games at this point. Like, he can manage a game and win it for you that way, but when it comes strictly down to his arm, it's not going to happen. Now, maybe it's because he's playing with a half a thumb at this point, but next year is going to be a make or break year for him and this Rams team as a whole. But one thing's for sure is McVay's not going anywhere. Absolutely not. But with that, this podcast is in the books. We're going to do some baseball in the week, and we're in championship week at this point. Only 3 more games left of football, and then we're done. Boy, the NFL season flew by. But Clark, where can people listen to all of our podcasts?
Yeah, guys, thank you guys all for listening to this episode. Us 3 appreciate it. Joe and Jesse, who aren't here, appreciate it. Make sure you guys are subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Follow us on our social medias on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Sports Depth Pod. That's Sports DEPT Pod. Justin said it best. We have a baseball episode coming up. We're going to be predicting the championship round, so that's fun. Maybe we'll throw in a basketball one in a week or two because some things are starting to heat up there, like we talked about James Harden, but things are starting to get crazy with the COVID stuff. So hopefully the season continues so we can do a podcast. And then, of course, most likely a wrestling recap will be later in the week. So I would stay tuned to all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next episode.